right, good morning, everybody. As per the norm, place where you're coming from in the chat. I see some of you are repeat visitors, which is good. Hi again, Melissa. Hi again, Sarah. Oh, hi, Laura. Hi, Jeremy. San Francisco, wow. Southeastern PA, all right. All you Pennsylvanians, I have my You've Got a Friend in Pennsylvania t-shirt rocking today, so throwback to our old license plates. Tempe, Arizona, nice. Welcome.
Yeah, people are here from all over. It's so great.
Texas. Yeah, we've got everybody across the country today. Not bad.
Uh-huh.
How are we looking on attendees? Are they still filtering in, Charity?
It's slowed a bit, so I think we could probably get started. People can come as they are able.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back if you're joining us again. I am Averie, Executive Director of the Mid-Atlantic Association of Museums, joined here by my co-host Charity, Executive Director of the Association of Midwest Museums. So actually, I'm going to be your presenter today. No pressure, right? Charity will be monitoring the chat, and I'm going to have you participate a little bit in this exercise. So if you feel comfortable participating, I guess I should say. I'm going to ask you to get a little bit deep as we go through our discussion today. If you don't feel comfortable participating, that's totally fine too. So let's get started. Just some background on how I came to know mindfulness. Probably about 5 years ago, I was seeing a therapist when I lived in Maine, and she introduced mindfulness to me as a method of working through my anxiety at the time. And this was in, the time where people were really focusing on CBT, so cognitive-based therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, which is more focused on changing your emotions and changing your behaviors as you approach situations. I had a hard time working with that, so my therapist said, hey, let's try something different. So she introduced mindfulness to me, and let's go to the next slide here. Oh. I put some Yoda in there because we're flashing back to Monday, but a lot of Jedi meditation and a lot of Jedi principles actually have a lot of roots in mindfulness as well. So I'll get my chat window out of the way. So the Mayo Clinic describes mindfulness as a type of meditation in which you focus on being intensely aware of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. So it's really focused on being in the present. Practicing mindfulness involves several things: breathing methods, guided imagery, and other practices to help relax the body and mind and help to reduce stress. So mindfulness started to be used as a formal therapy in the 1970s, but it has been around for a very long time. It has its roots in Buddhism, the goal being, and this is once again very similar to our Jedi meditation, the goal being to create yourself and become an empty vessel for positive thoughts and positive energies to occur. So things we'll focus on as we go through some of these exercises today. Pay attention to your body. Most importantly, your breath. Pay attention to sensations or feelings that are happening, maybe as your heart rate increases or slows down. I had a lot of caffeine this morning, so my heart is like going at full speed. Notice your mind, your thoughts, and your consciousness, and the mental contents that are popping up as we go through these exercises. So basic principles are kind of illustrated in this image here. This little stick figure is sitting in the present. And something that I want to emphasize as we go through this is that if you're feeling anxiety right now, like I am, like many of us are, a lot of anxiety is based in the past and in the future. And our goal is to get into the present and get into a current mental state where you can experience and go through what you're feeling at the moment. So as we go through today, please use the chat. Charity will be monitoring it and will hopefully stop me if something pops up. But as we go through these exercises, I want you to think about what you notice in your body, how you're feeling. Focus on your mind, or the focus on the mind with this task as best as you can. But if you're having questions or thoughts, just put them in the chat and I'll help you work through it as best as I can. So where we're using our exercises from today are from the book How to Train a Wild Elephant, which is the book that my therapist recommended for me to read. It is written by Jan Chozen-Bays. She is a mother, grandmother. She lives in a Zen monastery. She is a pediatrician by trade. So she has a lot of life experience as well as a lot of theological and meditative experience as well. So there's 53 exercises in this book. I'll take you through 4 today because 53 is quite a bit. And I'll talk a bit about some of the ones that don't really need a lot of explanation here before we get started, that you can do anytime. What she focuses on mostly in her book is that you don't need to change your entire routine to make mindfulness a priority. You can make little changes here and there in your everyday life that you're already doing to make it less stressful for you. The whole idea of these simple mindfulness exercises is to create less stress for you. So if you enter in our museum well-being book, there's a chance you can win a copy of this book. So I know we've gotten charities at 2 entries already.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We've got 2 entries. So get those bingo cards in and you might have a chance to win this very book itself. Well, maybe not this one. This is my copy. It is stained with coffee and there's a lot of notes in it and it's just a whole mess. So I'll give you a clean copy if you win bingo. So some of the exercises in the book are very straightforward. What they're doing obviously is to try to get you into a present state and to notice things. So some exercises are notice the color blue as you're walking around your house, or notice the color pattern if you have color blindness or if you are unable to see colors themselves at all. Another simple one is use your non-dominant hand for everyday tasks. This is a good one because it's very difficult whenever you do use your non-dominant hand. I'm right-handed, but as I used this with my therapist, I was trying to write left-handed. I was trying to primarily use items left-handed, and it was a really good challenge for me to focus in the present because I had to focus so hard on using that left hand that I wasn't used to using before. Some other simple ones are just 3 breaths. So this is before a stressful situation, or if you're like me, you don't like seeing the voicemail button pop up on your phone. So I use 3 deep breaths before I listen to that voicemail. Silly walks is a good one. And yes, it is based on the Ministry of Silly Walks from Monty Python. So I recommend you take a look at that video before you try to progress and do some silly walks. Leave no trace. That's a principle with, any national park or any park in general. Try to go into a room and act as if you were never there. So pick up after yourselves, pick up everything, and try to leave the room without any trace of you being there. Noticing sounds. So this can be noticing bird calls, noticing the air moving, through your house if the windows are open. For me right now, I'm hearing the garbage truck outside. So that's one. Mindful driving. So I know we're not doing a lot of driving right now, but this one is all about just focusing on driving. I know if you're like me, you suddenly get from point A to point B and you go, how the heck did I get there? So this exercise challenges you to really focus on the road, focus on your hands on the wheel, focus on driving, like not even with the radio. These are some very simple exercises you can try. But we'll walk through a few as we go forward. So as I progress, if you want to put in the chat what your experience with mindfulness is, and if it's something you've practiced before. It can be yes, no, or Averie, I have no idea what you're talking about. Wait to see if we get some responses here. All right, I don't see anything coming through yet, but I'll let you enter that in if you would like. So, oh, okay. Meditation with Tara Brock. I don't know Tara Brock. I'll have to look them up. Someone who do it and practice it too with their therapist. That's great.
Yeah. Margaret mentioned that she feels like she's been more mindful during work from home.
Okay.
That's good.
Melissa uses physical exercise, yoga to keep in the present. That's a good one. Samantha started meditating a while ago after going into yoga practice to deal with anxiety. Another good one. Yeah, Sarah, I feel like we're all still learning with mindfulness. I find that I have to challenge myself to do it every single day, no matter what. It's always a learning experience, especially in this time. It's been a learning experience. Lacey, I've learned about mindfulness, but haven't incorporated it yet. Okay. Taking a walk in the morning. Adult paint by numbers. That's so cool. All right. So before we get started, I do want to mention that if you do receive a copy of this book, or if you're interested in receiving a copy of this book or learning more about it, not every single practice in this book is totally accessible for all people. So just keep that in mind, but all of these can be adapted to be accessible in any way that you can imagine. So as I mentioned, if you have like a color blindness, if there's some sort of color blindness happening, you can choose a different color to use. You can choose patterns instead of colors. You just have to use what works for you. So as I mentioned, we'll do 4 mindfulness practices today, and they're going to include noticing your hands, giving compliments, noticing your posture, and noticing your anxiety. Okay, so the first one is noticing your hands. Basic principles of this are our hands care for us more than we think they do. I'm sure all of you are using your hands right now to do things like click your mouse, typing out an email, picking up a cup of coffee, picking up your phone, pulling a blanket up to you when you go to sleep. So this practice is to ask you how, notice how your hands work. And it's a good reminder that our hands do a lot of things. So as we go through this exercise, I want you to write in the chat about sensations that you feel, and I'll guide you through this as we walk through it. So here's our exercise. I want you to grab something nearest to you that you can hold in your hands and you can manipulate. So for example, I have a stress ball. Well, it's a stress construction helmet from actually one of MAAM's longtime sponsors, Whiting Turner. So I'm going to use this as my example. So everybody grab an object close by. And as you hold that object, I want you to move it around in your hands, kind of like doing a 360. Maybe even a 180. I just did 360 again, but you can do it as many times as you like. Write in the chat things like, is it soft? Is it hard? Is it squishy like this is? Is it cold? Cold is a good one. Holding your stapler, it's freezing. Smooth, okay. How does it feel in your hands? For me, this is very calming and relaxing because I can put this anxiety into the stress ball. This one hasn't seen too much damage yet. What other kind of objects are you using in your hands? Phone charger cords, okay. Chapstick tin, a pen. Oh, small teddy bear. Oh no, coffee is cold. No, that's the worst. One of your cats, that's a good one. All right. Okay, a lot of good things. All right, thank you for that. Now, pick up another object that you have close by. So I have my Funko Pop Velociraptor.
Averie, you have many interesting things on your desk. I feel like
I do.
Mine is less interesting.
I have all kinds of interesting things. I love Jurassic Park, so my husband got me this Funko Pop because he just knew it was my thing. So as you have that second item, how is it different from the first item? So for me, this item is hard, but this item makes me smile because it reminds me of a loved one. In my hands, it is a little bit spiky because of the talons. It's a little harder to hold because its head is so big. All right, Linda has a branch. It's rough rather than smooth. Okay. Somebody has warm coffee. That's good. Part of our wedding dish is nice. Spiky seashell. Loaf of bread. Nice. Mouse pad. Okay. Lego Harry Potter. Very cool. All right. Mechanical cat toy. So it looks like a lot of you are really grabbing this pretty well. The idea is just to notice things that are around you with your hands and experience them. So you've all done a good job of already describing what you're experiencing with adjectives like spiky seashell, especially with how it feels in your hands if it's warm. So as you go throughout the day, I challenge you to, and this is why I have so many weird items on my desk, Charity. This is why. So I keep a couple of items on my desk, including my Velociraptor, and including my stress ball. I keep these on my desk because it gives me a chance to go back and notice my hands. Because as we work throughout the day, we don't take a moment to really think about what our hands are doing. And this is a good excuse. If I see the stress ball sitting on my desk, I mean, it's bright orange, so I'm always going to notice it. Or if I have my Velociraptor on my desk, it makes me laugh, so I'm always going to notice it. But having that object nearby helps you to center yourself in the present moment and maybe have a moment to go back and experience that in your hands again. So some of you have already talked about how it makes you feel. Some people have said this was part of our wedding gifts. So that's good that you're processing those feelings as they come back. It situates you in the present moment. So as you continue to use your hands, they're doing a lot of work. So have that reminder on your desk to help you center yourself, but also remember how you care for them too. So obviously we're all washing our hands a lot and using a lot of hand sanitizer. So hopefully whatever item you choose can help to remind you to do something very similar. All right, so let's move on to the next exercise. Giving a compliment. I picked Moira Rose for this slide, and if you're a fan of Schitt's Creek, you know that Moira Rose is best for compliments, but figured it might make you laugh anyway. So challenges in this book is obviously giving a compliment, and if you're me, you find it very hard to take compliments. I think this has something to do with my anxiety. It's still something that I work through quite a bit. But the function of compliments is really to be genuine with them. So as we go through this experience, I want you to think about somebody very close to you. This could be a spouse, it could be a friend, a family member. Think about the frequency and the effectiveness of your compliments. And a good way to do this is to think about, I appreciate the way you blank. So I'm going to practice this with Charity, actually. So Charity, I appreciate your, there's so many things I appreciate you for. Charity is always on the ball with our Council of Regions calls. She is the one that sends out the agenda and the schedule for us. We rotate this role every so often. But Charity has taken it on for an extra year as we transition through a couple of new directors in the Council of Regions. And I appreciate the way you do this, Charity, with such grace and finesse. It is really astounding. And you are such a leader in the field, and I admire you so much.
Oh,
So,
Averie.
You're welcome.
I was starting to type into the chat before you told me that you were going to be complimenting me. That Averie, I appreciate that you've been vulnerable with us today and that you are sharing your process for dealing with anxiety and stress with these wonderful exercises. I feel like I've gotten to see a little bit inside of you, and it's so nice.
Oh, thank you. And sometimes it's hard to take those compliments. Thank you, Trey. That really means a lot, actually. I probably have a whole other webinar up my sleeve about vulnerability with a whole other book. I won't get into that today. That's all about Brene Brown. If you love her, look her up on TED Talks. She's great. I won't get into it too much. That's another part of my therapy that gets through anxiety. But sometimes, even if it's hard to take those compliments, the best thing to do is just to say thank you. So if you struggle with that, start by just saying thank you. That's all you have to do. So, the lovely background.
Yeah,
I know the background.
You need to pause
and
appreciate some of these compliments you are now getting in the chat.
Thank you all. So actually, you're already doing what I was going to ask you to do, which is great. It's great. You read my mind. So I want you, if you feel comfortable again, write in the chat, and it doesn't have to be towards myself or Charity, though we appreciate every compliment you give us. Think of a compliment that you would like to give to a loved one, perhaps. Maybe a child, or maybe a spouse, a parent, and something genuine. She jokes in the book that it's not going up to the person at Starbucks and saying, "I like your scarf." I mean, that's a great compliment, but these are supposed to be from the heart, genuine, and this is a challenge to make you feel vulnerable.
You know, I know a few people in our list today, so I'm going to try to offer some compliments out there too. So if you know anybody who happens to be in attendance today, feel free to compliment them.
Well, I see one, Melissa Keevy. This is a special one because she is actually also my best friend.
Oh.
So Melissa has been such a champ. She knows how nervous I was to do this today. And Melissa, I appreciate the way you always support me. Now I'm going to get all choked up. So
It's okay.
I'll leave it at that. We'll talk later, Melissa. I appreciate the way my niece sends pictures of her baby to me. Oh. Melissa, no crying. We'll cry over wine later tonight. Don't worry. That's a good one. Appreciating your partner during this time. He's kept you sane. My husband's kept me sane too. I'm there with you.
I see that maybe Kira has raised her hand. Kira, I don't know if you want to. If you have a need, you can feel free to message us through the chat, or if you want to share something with the group, you can do that.
That's a nice one, Linda. Appreciating your teenage son who will randomly hug you. That's a nice one. You don't need to apologize for your puppy. Puppies are great. Stephanie's on here too. Stephanie and Sarah, I appreciate you both for being such great supporters of MAAM and joining us with AMM too. I know Jeremy's on here too. Jeremy is a member of MAAM from the United States Holocaust Museum, and he has come to just about every single webinar we've done with MAAM over the past couple of months. So Jeremy, I very much appreciate you being a member and participating in all of our events.
I want to say thank you, and I appreciate Linda Endersby and Lindsay Young and others who are on this session today who've participated in the AMM Midwest calls the last several weeks. I feel like, I hope they've been helpful for everyone who's participated, but I know that for me, it's been extremely helpful to have a group of people that I can talk to every week who are in our membership and, you know, float ideas past them, even wild and crazy well-being week ideas. I really appreciate all of you and your participation. It's definitely gotten me through this too.
Yes, very much so. And I appreciate you including me, Charity.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm glad you could do this with me.
Anytime, anytime. This has been fun. All right, these are great. I'm gonna let you keep doing them. I'll move on to the next exercise, but please feel free to just keep chugging the way through those compliments. Okay, the next one's posture. This one doesn't so much have an exercise, but it's just getting you to notice just what's going on in your body. So posture, when do you notice it during a day? You know, put it in the chat if you would like to. I know I notice it when I have been sitting in my chair for too many hours in a day, and then all of a sudden I'm slouching with my elbows on the desk, and my back is in this weird position, and I go, why does my back hurt? So what are some other times that you notice your posture? Another one's driving for me. Ready?
I just posted in the chat that I notice on Zoom calls throughout the day, like at some point, sometimes I end up down here. I can only see my head and I go, oh no, I'm not sitting up anymore. I need to sit up.
Yep, that's a good one. What else do we got? Let's check the chat again. When you're driving, yeah. Especially on long drives, I'll slouch on the wheel and my arms will go up and sit back in the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, ergonomically unfriendly chair for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I think we're all regretting our home chair decisions.
I know. I just got a new one right before this whole thing started, and I'm very thankful for that. But before that, my chair was awful.
Yeah.
So a good thing to remember is that posture really affects your breathing, and your breathing is going to affect your anxiety. It's going to affect your thoughts. It's going to affect everything. So I put up on here an image of the chakras, which are very commonly used in Hinduism and Buddhism. I won't get too much into it right now, but chakras are all about being open. This is something that I work on quite a bit. I really like to read and study Eastern religions, especially Buddhism and Hinduism, for these reasons. But another benefit of chakras is keeping them aligned. So as like the traditional meditation state shows, it's a way to line up all of your chakras. So as we do our exercise, this isn't so much on the chakras, but I want you to think about aligning every single portion of your body. So from the top of your head, your crown, to your third eye, which is like the interior, it's pretty much your brain, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, your sacral, and your root. So this is doing your best to keep your spine in line if you can. And just taking a couple of deep breaths. And the best way to describe how to take a quality deep breath, and I challenge you to be careful with this because you can start yawning very quickly. Don't do it too quickly or too slow either. I don't want you to pass out. But the best way it was described to me is breathe in as if you are filling a water balloon with water. And think of it as that water is going down the side of the balloon and filling it up from the bottom up. So I want you to take one of those breaths with me through this exercise. So breathe in through, however you are comfortable breathing in. I realize that some people are not as able to breathe in through their noses as others. So breathe in as best as you can and try to fill your lungs as that water balloon. A couple seconds, keep breathing in. Let it up very slowly as if you're letting that water out from that water balloon. And notice your posture as you do this. We don't want you to move that spine. If it helps, I am keeping my hand on my chest and on my spine at the moment. So try it again. Breathe in. Breathe out very slowly. All right, after doing that, noticing your posture, what are you feeling? Do you feel a bit more relieved? You feel like you need to do it 6 more times like I do? Try it a couple of times and see how it affects your posture. So for me, I'm noticing my heart rate slowing down. I'm noticing I want to keep a better posture in my chair. Relax, that's a good one. I'm noticing that I was sitting crooked and I didn't realize it. Less stress and centered, okay. Alignment. Feel a bit rigid, okay. I've been there too. This sounds weird, but try not to think about it too much. If the water balloon effect isn't working for you, just breathe in normal and just notice where your chest and your spine are and just try to keep them as in line as you can. Try to release that tension. We're not looking to tense things up. We want to keep our body as relaxed and our muscles as relaxed as possible. So just breathe regularly, but then just notice those breaths. I have a tendency to hold my breath too, so it does help me refocus on my lungs. Especially in stressful situations, I have a tendency to hold my breath. So this is a good exercise to do a couple of times a day, or before you get that, call that you didn't want to get the call from today. Take a moment to breathe, and you can breathe deeply, anxiety, and how it affects your posture. Posture helps breathing immensely. The key takeaway from this is that the body and the mind are independent. So we like to be separate from our minds. And I think that has been a problem with mental health, that people have made that separation too. So trying to incorporate the together is really going to help with anxiety, especially during this time. And our last exercise is anxiety. So I've been challenging you all to be very vulnerable throughout this process, and I really appreciate you seeming to take that feedback and offering up your vulnerabilities. Please do not feel pressured to share what you're feeling. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. So anxiety, as I mentioned before, is all about either thoughts that have happened in the past or maybe thoughts that have happened in the present. And if you're like me, anxiety is, I think, maybe some of you will get this. I think of SpongeBob in the episodes where he's in his own brain and there's filing cabinets everywhere. And there's a million little SpongeBobs running around, going in the filing cabinets and being active and talking and going to one another and freaking out. By the end of the episode, there's finally like one filing cabinet for SpongeBob, right? So that's how my brain feels when it comes to anxiety. And I have a really hard time trying to challenge that anxiety that's happening at the forefront. So things that can help with this are obviously meditation, taking a moment to go through each one by one. Other things are like talking this out with your friends, just noticing what's making you anxious. Half the battle of going through anxiety is noticing what makes you anxious. And at least for me, with my therapy, it's been that anxiety and that emotion that I'm feeling at that time. So it's been challenging, but it has been an exercise in talking through these things with loved ones. It has been an exercise at just working through how I'm feeling at that point in time. Just why am I anxious? And I guarantee you that if you just go through this and get through that battle of recognizing what makes you anxious, just know that things will get better. They'll get better, especially when you start noticing them. So for this exercise, as I mentioned, I don't want you to feel pressured to do this, but if you want to share, please feel free to. Something that my husband and I talk about a lot are little anxieties. So these are things that are maybe an everyday annoyance or an everyday happening, just little things that, you know, not big things that give you anxiety, but things like, what the heck am I going to make for dinner? Uh, Other things like, when am I going to get that email done? Not big things like, how is this project going to go, but just those little tiny things. So for this exercise, and again, feel free to share in the chat, what are some little anxieties that you're feeling right at this moment? Just notice maybe one of them. So we have anxiety about job security. Definitely. Yeah, deadlines make me anxious too. Yeah, emails, yep. Grocery store anxiety, yeah. That one really, that strikes a chord with me, Deborah. Feeling anxious over taking time from work to do this session like you're cheating the museum, even though I'm trying to be more focused as a result. I struggle with that every single day. I struggle with taking breaks in the middle of the day. I often go downstairs and get myself a snack and feel guilty for getting a snack before I answer an email. And I have to constantly remind myself that this is self-care and it needs to be a priority. And forcing yourself to go through the motions just because that's what we're told to do in American society a lot of the time doesn't mean it's the best thing to do. So I feel you. You are seen. You're not alone in this at all.
We had a speaker at the beginning of the week with the Yotivation session mention that, and she's a museum director, you know, that it's kind of like when you're on an airplane and they tell you what to do with the oxygen masks. You have to put it on yourself before you can put it on other people. And if you aren't taking care of yourself, then you're not going to be able to take care of others and to do your job well. So that's why this week is here. This is what we're trying to emphasize. It's very important. So don't feel bad. Do take this time.
Feeling I'm missing on a meeting, yeah. Phone calls make me anxious. Me too. Me too. I am a true millennial in that sense. Dog with allergies. We're all in the same storm, but in different boats. That is a good one. Okay, there's a lot in here, and I thank you very much for being so vulnerable and sharing all of these with us. I have no practice or any of them, but the best advice that I can give you is experience them and feel them. If you need to take a moment to step away, it's okay. You have to do it, and it's going to make you feel better in the long run. So I challenge you, the takeaway from this is to switch from thinking to experiencing. And the nice thing is, I saw somebody mention about balancing work life and home life with this. And the nice thing is that if you have somebody that you're living with at this time, it can be a good practice to do this with somebody else. So my husband and I, for example, always challenge each other to do, one of the exercises in this book is to, when you're eating, just eat. Don't have your phone, don't have the TV on. I mean, we do put the radio on, but you know, you got to do what works for you. So we have the radio on. We try to sit at a table away from as many distractions as possible and just eat. And sometimes having a partner that can assist you or help you do this makes it even that much better. So just go from just thinking about it, because anxiety is all thinking. Well, not all thinking, but a lot of it is thinking. And as I mentioned before, our body and mind are interdependent. So whenever you're thinking anxious thoughts, notice what your body's doing too. Notice how your heart rate is increasing. Noticing if you're feeling shaky, or maybe your anxiety is related to something else. Is it related to you being hungry? Are you tired? Do you need a break? Just take a moment. Take a moment and experience that before jumping into something else. So step 1, I would say, is notice it. Step 2 is experience it. And that's really all you have to do. Melissa, I like that. Frequent hug breaks. Hug breaks are good. It is totally okay if you just want to watch Netflix someday. It's hard. People are doing really amazing things out there. And I think the media is really good at focusing on just the people doing those big things. But you can't do those big things if you're not feeling well yourself. And you have to remember that. You have to take the time to binge watch an entire season of Schitt's Creek at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not saying I've done that. I totally have. But sometimes you have to do that. That's okay. So some tips for staying mindful. It takes practice. If it's not working right away, it's okay. It's going to take some time. Reminders are very helpful too. So as I mentioned before, Charity's like, you have so many weird things on your desk. And I said, well, there's a reason why. They're all little reminders. So keep something on your desk. Keep that stress ball. Keep a velociraptor. Keep anything that, brings you joy or just brings you a little bit of happiness during the day. Some other things I've done, especially when I use the non-dominant hand one, or when I use the noticing your hands one, I paint one nail a really weird color. So I did that today. So I hope you can see it. So I have just like a really nude color on right now. It's like a nude kind of pinkish color. And then because I'm noticing my hands, I'm not using my non-dominant hand. So if I use my non-dominant hand, I paint the color on the non-dominant hand. But since I'm just noticing my hands, I put it on my dominant. So I have a green finger in the middle of all these pink ones. So the idea is to use a lot of contrast if you want to paint your nails. If you do. You can also do things like wear a bracelet on the arm that you don't normally wear a bracelet on. I know we're not really wearing jewelry a lot of the time today, so if that doesn't work, this is where the knickknacks come in on the desk. So, or knickknacks, whatnots, thingamabobs, whatever. I find, for me, that these are the most helpful because some are just so odd, like my velociraptor. It just gives me that moment to smile and to think, to do something mindfully. So it can be anything like that. You can keep a journal. I think Michelle was talking about that earlier this week, about keeping a journal, just what you're thinking and what you're feeling at this point in time. Personally, it's not something that works well for me, but that's the point though. You need to do what works for you. And if you're like me, you get stressed because people have these amazing bullet journals and they're absolutely beautiful. And if you're me, I am not artistic whatsoever. So I get anxious about creating things like a bullet journal because it just doesn't work for me. However, things like knickknacks work for me. And you might find something that works for you too. And you have to remember that that's totally fine. You just have to do what works for you in practice. And as I mentioned before, doing it with a friend or a family member can really help you too. So if you take away anything from today, I would like you to take away that when you do mindfulness, do what works for you. So that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been really heartwarming to see all of these thoughts and suggestions and anxieties. They're like, oh, I'm alone. I don't have, I have the same anxieties as you do. So they've been helpful for me as much as I hope they've been helpful for you. But yeah, feel free to ask any further questions in the chat. I'll do my best to answer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now too.
Averie, this was wonderful. Thanks so much for putting the presentation together and sharing all the things that you're practicing. I think that it's really nice. I think I'm going to have to get a copy of the book.
It's 15 bucks. But yeah, again, play bingo. You might win a copy.
That's great. And just as a reminder, we'll make this recording available after the week, at the end of the week, or however we're going to share it in many different ways. So feel free to look back to it if you need to be reminded of how to do some of the things that Averie mentioned today.
Thank you, everyone. Your compliments are so nice.
You're giving Averie a good start to her day.
All right. Well, it doesn't seem like we have any questions, and I know I went over time, so I apologize for that. But yeah, so take care, everyone. Charity, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, hope to see some of you at the trivia this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your week, and practice some of these new mindfulness exercises to help you get through the rest of work at home time and beyond.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you later.